A favorite exhibit? uh,
Wow.
okay.
There's a lot to choose from.
Yeah. Let
Yeah.
me let me own up because I've got a number of favorite exhibits, and they're probably not going to be have anything to do with this. In At the RAF, the Royal Air Force Museum at Hendon, uh, there's nothing I love better than the F-2B Bristol fighter, World War One, which is a twin engine, is a biplane long range escort, a two-seat escort, and they've actually exposed the ribs. It's a work of art. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, when you get to the U.S. Air Force Museum in Dayton, oh, I just go nuts over fighter planes. I'm sorry about that. I can't help that, and especially when I can get close to World War One fighters, World War Two fighters, any fighters. So I'm really hard pressed. I'm going to turn it over to the fellows who must be more selective because I'm just a plane hugger. I can't help that.
Too many to mention, just no way to choose it. So what I'll say, the thing that I've had the most fun at looking at history was actually going to Phoenix, Arizona with a Confederate Air Force and getting to fly a B-17 to sit in the front of it. 32 minutes of yoke time for a man that's used to flying a stick, and listening to those four motors out there roaring. It was just an incredible feeling to actually get in a B-17 and fly it. That's my memory.
I think there'll be two for me. The first one is my uncle used to race in the Reno air races. So this wasn't actually a museum piece, but it was a P-51 that he had found in an oak club in front of Nicaragua. That has inspired my entire professional life. Once I saw that airplane, that's all I wanted to do. But probably beyond that, the most impactful one is one we have at Nellis Air Force Base. And I remember the first time I went to Nellis, we call it the petting zoo. And it was, for a young fighter pilot, it was a incredibly educational, impactful experience to look and sit in the cockpit of the airplanes that I could potentially oppose in the European theater. And it was that leaves an impression.
Very quickly, I just want to come back to something. I have had two flights, memorable flights in my time. One was in a Fokker 1920 biplane, open air, out of Rhinebeck Airfield and over the Hudson River. The other one was when the Air Force was trying to convince me to be the chief of the Office of Air Force History. I got an F-15 flight out of Langley. And yeah, I know, don't give me that guy, F-16. But when the pilot stood that thing on its tail going right on, and we went straight up. I went straight up too. It was like, ah. And so those two, in fact, when I got down, I realized I probably wouldn't have been a good fighter pilot because I walked out of the plane, got in the ready room, was dressed, and they gave me an award. And I said, oh, crap, I've gone blind. I can't read it. And one of the guys said, where are your glasses, sir? And I thought, oh, the glasses were still in the cockpit, in the helmet, behind the goggles. So I just thought, oh, this was great, but no, you'd have been a nut. Sorry.
Let me end this by pointing out that we have, before I do that, let me, Bill, it's no longer the Confederate Air Force. That is
the commemorative.
Oh, something else. And they actually put a show on out here once a year. I forget when it's done. It's done as part of a larger World War II celebration way down south of Atlanta. I forget what it's called now. It's really very much worth going to. And if one of you can think of what it's called, that would be fine. But they're no longer called the Confederate Air Force. We are blessed in this country with a whole lot of really first-rate aviation museums for military aviation. And let me add to the Dayton Museum, which is just awesome. The Dayton Museum is so huge and it contains so many things that it's really without compare. The only museum, well, there are some world museums, but I guess nothing is as big as Dayton. But not everybody can be in Dayton all the time, right? If you're into naval aviation, they have a fine museum down in Pensacola that deserves a look if you are in that vicinity. We have a good museum south of here in Macon. It's not in the same class as some of the others, but it's here and it's accessible and it can be recommended. And both of the main locations, if you like, of the Smithsonian have aviation museums. The one on the mall, of course, which is just famous, very old, and what have you. They have some truly precious items in there. But the version of the Smithsonian Aviation Museum out near Dulles Airport is also first rate. There are other aviation museums, I forget what they're called, but there's one in Seattle that is worth, I think Boeing had a lot to do with setting that up. And it is also worth visiting. And so I don't think any of us, we've gone over a bit, but in any case, if you should find yourselves, for those of you who are still with us, roughly 30 people are still with us, if you should find yourself in any of these places and your significant other will tolerate it, I recommend that you go and spend some time in any and all of these places that you can get to. And with that, let me thank, first of all, Woody and John and Phil, and apologize, not that we had any control, but John got technically zapped a couple of times, and we sort of danced around a little bit with other things until we could get him back in gear. But I think ultimately, we pretty much said everything we had to say, and hopefully addressed most of the questions that were directed in our towards us. And let me encourage all of you are on our registration list, and we're going to use that to invite you to our next symposium. We try to do about one of these per semester. And the next one will be same topic, the end of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War, except it's going to be Asia Pacific. And there's a whole lot of stuff to be covered there. And with that, let me finally thank you all and wish you well and stay safe and healthy.
Take it easy. See you guys.